Welcome to Mental Reset, real talk and real tools for men's mental health. My name's Ryan, former Deputy Manager of the NHS 111 service. I've worked in mental health support for a decade now, full time, but the most important part of that experience is my own journey. And when we share that in the right way with the right person, it might form part of their survival guide. I'm here with my co-host James, and today we're going to be deconstructing some of the myths around a struggle with anxiety, something that often men don't recognise or are afraid to admit. James, you've had your struggle with anxiety. Tell us where that started.
I can't actually tell you where it started, to be honest. There wasn't a certain time or certain trigger that led me to be sort of an anxious overthinker. As far as I can remember, I've always been that way. So I can't tell you where it started, but I can definitely tell you about my struggles with it. And like when I say struggles, it really was. For a long time, I really suffered with anxiety and overthinking. To the point it became really quite debilitating. I'd need to do something, I'd want to do something, but I'd analyse every step of the way to do that thing, and it would prevent me doing it. Which it's weird, man. Like, I don't know whether it's almost like a safety mechanism where, this anxiety, the overthinking every step and analysing something is to protect me from getting something wrong or doing something wrong. But it just had the opposite effect. Yeah,
that's the thing. It's this old-fashioned inherent safety mechanism that's there to keep us safe. And then sometimes it does too good a job. It assesses the risk of something that may never happen. The 0.001% way it could go wrong, and we hyper-focus on that rather than thinking about or looking at all the ways it could go right. When you're feeling anxious, how else are you feeling? Because there's lots of descriptive words. Like, I'd say I'm feeling anxious, stressed and agitated. How else would you describe those feelings?
Mine is overwhelm. Like when I feel anxious, it feels like what I need to do is too much to do, and that feels overwhelming. It's like, I've got a massive list of things I need to do. Where do I start? And because there's so much, I can't start at any one point. That would be the best way to describe how I feel when I'm anxious.
Yeah, overwhelming. And it's person-centered, it's descriptive. Typically people might say, I feel anxious, nervous, worried, scared, fearful, on edge. Would you ever describe it as a feeling of excitement?
I think when I was going through my worst time with anxiety, I'd struggle to interpret that as anything positive. But I'm very familiar with kind of nervous excitement. I got it before filming today. It was a nervous excitement. It was kind of a bit of anxiety, but it was in a positive way. But I guess it does come down to how you interpret it.
Yeah, it can be a mixture of a similar energy, and sometimes we find it hard to differentiate where that energy is coming from. So I imagine there was a level of anxiety and excitement when you did and I've got massive respect for you doing this, your skydive.
Yeah.
You're anxious, nervous, worried. Is the weather going to be okay? Is the plane going to ascend all right? Is the chute going to open? But excitement, because you consciously, by choice, put yourself in that situation. So it depends on the situation, I think, or what's driving that energy or adrenaline. Does anxiety affect us physically? And if so, how did it affect you physically?
Yeah, and it really links into one of the tools that I use to manage anxiety as well. So it would physically manifest in terms of sweaty palms, my heart rate would increase, my breath would be short and shallow. I guess that's the physical signs. I mean, more of a mood thing. I'd be quite irritable with it as well, because I'll be trying to deal with all this stuff, all this information that's going on, and I can't control any of it. And then someone might ask me a question, and I'd snap at them, because that's just one other thing to deal with that I don't want to be dealing with at the time.
Yeah, that's it. I've got that much going on upstairs in my mind. You ask me a question, I'm getting short, frustrated, impatient, intolerant, angry. There's over 100 physical symptoms to anxiety that have been listed. Doesn't that just show you when people say, oh, it's all in your head? It isn't.
Yeah.
I've got 100 very real physical signs and symptoms going off right now. And there's even one they've branded as your stress signature. Have a think about if you've got one. So when I'm a bit on edge, nervous, worried, overwhelmed, scared, I will scratch my thumb to the point where it's scarred. People might bite their nails, chew their lip. Not always, but we've often got our own unique tell, that thing we do when we're starting to release adrenaline and go off into that space. Do you think you've got one?
Yeah, I'm a bit of a knee tapper, a bit of a jigger, I'd say. Stroking my beard as well, but also I do that when I'm thinking, and also just to look like I'm wise. But yeah, I think those are my tells.
Yeah, that's it. The little tells. And you know, when I'm doing that with my thumb, I wouldn't necessarily say I was anxious, but something's going on. That thought flow is going off. I'm thinking. I'm analysing. You mentioned some behaviours when you're anxious, like being a bit short and snappy.
Yeah.
How else might someone behave when they're feeling this way?
I guess it's really easy just to shut down and close off, because you don't want any additional stimuli, do you? You don't want any external noise. I don't know.
Well, that's where we see the isolation, right? The withdrawal. I've got that much going on. I'm going to withdraw from people, places, society, and the world. Give me some more of those thought patterns we have when we're anxious. You know, some of those what's that internal dialogue like in your head? What's that little voice you spend the most time with saying when you're anxious, nervous, worried, scared?
For me, everything is exaggerated. So you could be thinking about a task and it is the easiest of tasks to do, but your mind makes it into something far greater than it actually is, and it builds it up. And it's not only that, it's the consequences of not doing it, sort of the what ifs. You go into you go down the path of catastrophizing everything, don't you?
Apocalyptic thinking, the 0.0001% way it could go wrong, rather than all the ways it could or has, you know, gone right before. This stuff sounds awful. Why would I want to be sweating, my heart racing, palpitations, pacing the room, butterflies, stomach churning, my mind saying, what about this, what about that, hyper-focusing on the worst possible outcome? Is anxiety ever useful? Because it sounds awful.
Yeah, but I think anxiety, it's the, you know, the kicking of your primal instincts, isn't it? It was designed to protect us, designed to, you know, when we were, you know, cavemen, it was to, you know, to protect us from a saber-toothed tiger. But I think now that instinct, that, you know, protection instinct is still there. But we don't live in those days anymore where we step out the front door and we're going to get ripped to shreds by a saber-toothed tiger. So we apply that to things that we really don't necessarily need to be anxious about. But for me, I mean, I have found that reframing really, really helps. So reframing what you are anxious about and why you're anxious about it.
Yeah, that's it. That reframing and that being at peace with anxiety to a degree, because it is normal, it is usual, it's inherent. It's that hunter-gatherer survival instinct. And like you said about the tiger, it's there to keep us safe, mitigate danger. It can increase performance. It's like an internal risk assessment where it allows you to make conscious decisions and plan and prepare. But like you said, we're not worried about the saber-toothed tigers and eaters anymore. We're not worried about, like, you know, that level of survival. But you're probably right to have a bit of anxiety if you're going to walk through Coventry City Centre at 4 a.m. I'm from there. I can say that. Probably right to have a bit of anxiety if you're going to cross a busy road. So where do you think then that normal, usual safety mechanism we've all got, we wouldn't want to turn that off, tips over and becomes the problem that people are talking about and sharing?
So one way to look at it for me is fear doesn't keep you alive, it keeps you from living.
Yeah, shuts you down, stops you living your life, stops you doing the things you want to do, you need to do, you could or should do. And that's kind of a measure of when this normal, usual anxiety that we need for survival tips over because there's no blood test, there's no MRI scan, there's no x-ray. Pretty much the measure is when it's stopping you doing something you want to do, you need to do, you could or should do. And I think another measure is when the anxiety itself removes joy.
Yeah.
You went away on holiday this year. Where did you go?
I went to Croatia.
Croatia. Here's an example. Let's say I've just won an all-inclusive holiday for the whole family to Croatia. The family are buzzing. They can't wait. They're in holiday mode. I've got a fear of flying. Family looking forward to the holiday. My sleep's starting to be affected. I'm worrying about the flight. I can force myself onto that plane. I'm not going to have the family miss out on a free holiday, but I'm on the edge of my seat. Every time there's a noise on the plane, my heart's racing. And rather than enjoy and embrace that holiday with the family, I'm worrying about the flight back. So I think that's another measure of when people put the mask on and the guard up and still do that thing to still show up, but the anxiety is removing a little bit of joy. It's common, a struggle with anxiety, often unrecognised and untreated, especially in men. Why do you think if we've got this going on, these feelings, we wouldn't recognise it and then it goes unsupported?
I think it's difficult for men, particularly around anxiety. It's not something that a lot of men would want to admit to having. For me, I mean, anxiety, you can label it worry. And it's, you know, as a strong man, you don't worry about stuff, do you?
No.
Yeah, you get on and you do things. So, yeah, I think there's a certain stigma that, you know, comes with anxiety. That makes it difficult for men to, you know, admit that they are anxious.
Yeah, that's it. I don't want to admit to it. Everyone else is doing fine. Even that self-stigma, you know, like you face worse than this. What's wrong with you? Get on with it. Get over it. And people will say things like, well, I'm just a worrier. But what if that worry has crept up day by day, week by week? And this is when it may be a diagnosable mental illness, an anxiety disorder. Like I've got obsessive compulsive disorder. That comes under the banner of anxiety disorders. We've got things like PTSD, we've got acute stress disorder, we've got GAD, generalised anxiety. There are many. And another one to be aware of is panic attacks, anxiety attacks, panic disorder, whatever label someone wants to use. Have you ever had a panic attack?
No, I don't think I have. When I was struggling with anxieties, you know, as much as I did, I think I managed to keep a lid on it. I shouldn't have kept a lid on it, but I think I managed to without it spilling over into, you know, a physical panic attack.
Yeah, and there's no difference in a panic attack from the symptoms of anxiety. They're more intense, more in the moment, or more of a sudden. Typically, we think about, you know, heart rate, palpitations, that feeling of impending doom, but it can be anything but more intense in the moment. What used to be, we're about the same age. Well, I'm older. Let me just admit that before you call me out. What used to be that method that we would promote and endorse to get through and past a panic attack back in the day?
Oh, the breathe into a bag, isn't it?
There you go.
Yeah.
We do not promote or endorse that method, breathing in and out of a paper bag. Or people used to say, put your head between your legs. Oh, great. I'm having a panic attack upside down now, am I?
Yeah. If I could do that, I wouldn't leave the house.
Why don't we use the paper bag technique anymore?
Well, I guess you're not carrying a paper bag around with you everywhere you go. So if you've got a tool that you use to prevent or to help you in a situation, you're going to need it with you, right?
Yeah, and if I forgot that bag, what happens to my levels of anxiety when I forget the paper bag?
Yeah.
And also, it didn't really work. We were breathing in carbon dioxide, and what if someone's got asthma or COPD? So the idea being, maybe the younger viewers are like, what? We used to get people to breathe in and out of a paper bag. The theory on the paper bag was refocusing. So in that moment of panic, I'm probably thinking inward, my heart rate, this fear, the feeling of impending doom, my breathing. We want to try and get the person to focus externally. So the focus was on the bag. But let's say I was having a panic attack in a public place. I breathed in and out of a paper bag. It seemed to help, I don't know, but everyone's watching me. It can make it worse. So the technique we do promote and endorse, or can safely and effectively, is grounding. Have you ever heard of grounding?
No.
In that moment of panic, it's not like you don't have to wait till they're having a full-blown panic attack. If someone says, I can't relax today, this still works. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get the person to look at 5 things they can see, 4 things they can hear, 3 things they can touch, 2 things they can smell, and 1 thing they can taste. I've used this hundreds of times. I used it pretty much every shift in the mental health service I worked in. And I've only ever got to the end of 4 once, because you're doing it calmly, kindly, descriptively, painting a picture, telling a story. So trying to use the senses to get the person to think outwardly, break this electric current of adrenaline running through them. And I've used this stranger to stranger in a public place. So you all know Foss Park. Imagine your busy shopping centre, Saturday afternoon. There was a young lady holding a chest, gasping for breath, walking back and forth in a short space. Now, I didn't know what she was going through when I approached her. What physical thing could that be if someone's holding their chest and gasping for breath?
It could be a heart attack or, something like that.
Yeah, so if she hadn't said anything, I'm ringing 999 all day long. But I approached her and I said, hope you don't mind me approaching. My name's Ryan. You seem distressed. Is there anything I can do to help? And she said, I'm going to have a panic attack. So I know I can help, I can support. Now, sadly, we've got a group of people stood around like this. Someone even got their phone out and started filming, because that's the shocking world we live in. I should have done a little bit of MMA and then, I don't condone violence. I want to get her away from this group of people making it worse to a quiet space just over there. What would you say about physical touch to achieve that, yes or no?
I think it's difficult. I think you have to judge that situation, don't you? You've got to be really careful around there.
I think she'd probably be quite happy if you threw her over your shoulder and went off with her. But we've got to be respectful. We've got to be careful. It's inappropriate. So what I did is I explained and I gestured and I said, look, I'd like to get you to that quiet space away from this group of people making it worse. If you want to grab my elbow, I'm okay with that. If you offer the contact and the person engages, that's okay. She grabbed my elbow and my grounding looked something like this, because someone might be froze to the spot in a panic attack. I said, right, I'm going to tell you about my favourite shops. I want you to think about yours. I can see this Next. I need to get, I think it's a blue shirt for a wedding from Next in 3 months. JD Sports. Got really into my running during lockdown. Made all this up, by the way. Let's listen for what we can hear. I can hear that song playing from that store. Is that number 1 at the minute? I have a listen to that couple. They're having a domestic. Sounds like he's in trouble. We got to the quiet space. The panic attack started to subside. And she said, how amazing having someone that didn't panic themselves, knew they couldn't take it away from me, but was willing to sit shoulder to shoulder in the moment and use the kindness and comfort of their words until it passed. She explained she felt anxious in the morning. Her sister was supposed to go into town with her. Her sister cancelled. She got overwhelmed. And I said, do you want me to ring your sister? I'll put it on speakerphone. Explained. Sister picked her up and off she went. So often when someone's having a panic attack, we feel like we've got, oh my God, what am I going to do? What do I do? How do I help? We just need to be there. We just need to be there and use our words. And I used that on a friend once, grounding. And they said, don't use your wizardry, your trickery on me. I know what you do for a job. And they were a football fan. They're a West Ham United fan. So the next time round, I used what they liked. I said, right, let's think about the times West Ham have won really convincingly. Add a bit of humour. We're going to be here a while, mate. Yeah. I'll tell you the songs I know they sing at the ground, you fill in the blank. So it's like a sophisticated distraction. Because I've had quite a few panic attacks. And I know you go inward. You know, a bit like you explained your anxiety, you go into your own head. You can start to catastrophise, apocalyptic thinking. And the more you hyper-focus on that, the more you fuel it and give that credibility. You can see how some people would start here and end up in the midst of panic. But if a friend approached you and said, I'm here for you, let's get outside, let's have a chat, let's have a talk, look at that, and just calm the pace down, that energy can be transferable.
Yeah. I think it's really important to slow things down when I'm feeling anxious and overwhelmed. And it's actually, it's really important for me as well to kind of manage stress and anxiety, because stress is a massive trigger of my autoimmune. So I live a normal life, and if I have a flare up, then that's where things are difficult. But if I recognise anxieties coming on, I've got various tools I can use to kind of keep that at a level and bring it down. And I'd consider myself to be, I wouldn't consider myself to be an anxious overthinker now. The last 2 years I've done quite a lot of work, and I feel sort of the need to control is gone, and that's really helped to let go and to kind of just surrender to things has really helped. But
liberating.
Yeah. I'm not attached to outcomes so much anymore, and because I'm not attached to outcomes, whatever happens. But that's not to say you don't. It's not worth getting anxious about certain things, because certain things
still care, right?
Yeah,
still control what you can, but there's control and over control, and the need to control. Whereas actually we do what we can, put in the right action, and then let the chips fall where they may. So what are these tools then?
So breath work for me is really, really good. And I mean, I do breath work every day. I try and do at least 20 minutes a day where I'm actually dedicated time for breath work, normally in the morning or in the evening. Just that slow, deep nasal breathing, and it just helps bring my nervous system right down. I feel slow, I feel peaceful, and I feel still. And, doing that will completely clear my mind. But I can't always do that on a day-to-day basis, because I can't sit at my desk at work and be answering calls and emails and say, hang on, I just need 20 minutes to go do some breath work before I can come back and do my job. So I've had to kind of adapt strategies using breath work, and the real the big win for me is just doing some breathing at my desk. And it doesn't need to, I can type it in an email and doing it, but just taking a minute out of your day just to focus on your breath, breathing in through your nose, holding it for a couple of seconds, deep breath out, and just repeating that. And soon, you can feel your heart rate slow down almost instantly doing that. And once I've done that, things then just seem a lot more manageable, and I can look at that list of all the things that are overwhelming me, thinking, well, that's not important, that's not important, that's not important, let's focus on that, let's deal with that, and then we can push forward. And just doing that, it helps me so much. It
helps. Like you say, you can do it in the moment at your desk, because that adrenaline gets released. Fight, flight, freeze. It's preparing us to fight that perceived threat. Flight might be run, escape, cancel the meeting, ring in sick for work, or freeze with our senses heightened, almost waiting to make that next move. And that's the sympathetic nervous system, that adrenaline. If I'm running from that tiger you mentioned, I want to be mouth breathing. I want to be sweating, I want my muscles warm. But the parasympathetic nervous system, we can access that through breath work. We can slow the heart rate down. And it's almost like you've got an accelerator and a brake. The sympathetic nervous system, the adrenaline, is the accelerator on the car, and the parasympathetic nervous system is the brake. And we've all got these, and we need both. Back in the day when this was built, we'd hit that accelerator hard when we had to. Run from the tiger, stay warm, stay alive, stay fed. We spend loads of time with our foot on the brake, outdoor, in nature, fun, play, laughter, movement. In this modern world, some of the professionals have identified the trend of why more people are anxious and stressed, not just the pace of life and the pace of the world. It's that the amygdala in our brain hasn't got the memo. I don't need adrenaline when I see something on Facebook, when there's a bill come through the door, when I watch the news and the mortgage prices have gone up. I've had an email from work. Like, we're hitting the accelerator in a lot of little taps, and we're neglecting to tap the brake. We're saying, I haven't got time. So like we said to the amygdala in our brain in the modern world, make sure nothing goes wrong with anything ever. And our brain's gone, I'll have a go. So we're like our baseline of adrenaline is kind of creeping up, and that's why we see a direct medical link now between stress building up and overflowing, and it causing poor mental health and mental illness, or struggle with anxiety into potentially an anxiety disorder. So there are things we can do, like you just shared, that are free, that are realistic, they don't take any length of time. You can do them at the same time as doing something else. But people will dismiss things like breath work. It's fluffy, it's just breathing in and out. But there's a power to the breath. There's a direct link with the breath and your heart rate. And when we get that funny feeling in our stomach, it's because the autonomic nervous system is linked to our digestion. So that's why we get butterflies. And it's linked to our immune system, which is why when people say, I've got a bit of a cold and run down, you know, like they mean like mentally and emotionally run down. So there's loads of things we can do. What else do you do to recognise and manage your anxiety might be creeping up? And this is often the things you enjoy. You may not think there's a direct link, but for example, you clearly go to the gym.
Yeah, I mean, the gym is a massive outlet for me. I mean, I normally hit the gym pretty much every day straight after work, and I think you do a full day of work, and you're carrying quite a bit of, you know, tension or anxiety, you know, that stress from that day. And hitting the gym straight afterwards, I go into that gym feeling, you know, really quite tense, and I come out just feeling like a completely different person. So yeah, like going to the gym's a, you know, big win exercise. Yeah. Get those happy hormones released into your system and kind of ready to go again.
And it's all inclusive physical movement. It doesn't have to be the gym. Mm-hmm. It can be armchair yoga. It could be a walk in the park. Any level of physical movement is as powerful on mild to moderate depression as medication. And anxiety and depression often coexist. You know, where you've got one, you might have a level of the other. And how they coexisted for me, living miserably with an anxiety disorder I didn't know I had, I became depressed. That's just one example of how they may well kind of go together. So when people do the things they enjoy, their hobbies, their pursuits, we undervalue them. These things we enjoy, they're important. They're fundamental parts of being human. And for me, as important, on par with medication, are often undervalued and not spoken about. And don't get me wrong, if someone's really struggling with anxiety, maybe some of these things aren't at the right point in their journey of recovery. You know, if you'd have offered me some of these things when I was really struggling, it probably wouldn't have helped. But that journey of recovery can look different for everyone. And because it's different for everyone, raising awareness of all these things that can help and how much they do matter is what the channel is really about, because there are so many things that we don't discuss that can help someone recover, overcome anxiety, and one of the major ones is talking about it. And that's what we're trying to do at the Mental Reset, share all these stories and strategies of things we can do as men to protect and improve our mental health. Please subscribe to the channel, like a video, and share this out as a free resource.